all my life with the French and English and the referendums.
Et on a raté par une petite marge, hein, quelques dizaines de milliers de voix. Bon, ben dans un cas comme ça, qu'est-ce qu'on fait? On se crache dans les mains et on recommence!
I had a map out. I said, pick a place, man, we gotta go.
To foreign shores throughout history, because they are an island surrounded by a sea.
Calgary's classic rock Q107 with Lady from Styx, the very first song that began a terrific career throughout the 1970s for Styx. I don't know if you remember when Melanie left CJD. I remember when she left, it was on the front page of the newspaper, and there was a discussion in corners about whether or not it was front page news. And I said, it is front page news because of the political situation at the time. And when I was pondering making the move, one of the things I considered was, I hope nobody asks me, you know, does it have anything to do with politics? Because it didn't.
It's Patty calling from the morning show Q107 in Calgary. Read the book of everything. You know what, to be honest with you, I don't know if you remember the parrot in the pet store. The parrot in the pet store was on the South Shore and could say, hello, how are you? But couldn't say the equivalent in French. And this parrot in the pet store that couldn't say, bonjour, comment ça va, necessitated this flurry of activity. The language police were outside the store. And if I remember correctly, the soundbite was something about either teach the bird the official language or move it to Canada. And I was a newlywed. It was time, and that straw broke the back. My husband knew at the time, came home. I had a map out. I said, pick a place, man, we gotta go.
I had a boss, Gary Shepard, who had been my creative director back in Montreal, and he moved out here on his own. So when he was going to work one day and opened up the newspaper, he saw me on the front cover and sent it back to me. I didn't realize that the Herald had done the story. So about 2 or 3 days later, I got in the mail a letter from somebody who wanted me to feel welcome and comfortable coming down. And they also sent along a pair of cowboy boots and a white hat. And a lot of my coworkers in Montreal, when they saw that I was getting all this wonderful response from Calgary, it helped to allay part of their fears.
What do we got? We have 2 degrees in Calgary and overcast. And about, it's about +1 in Banff at last check. There were fewer and fewer outlets and a shrinking audience. After a while, I knew no matter what Ted and I did, there was only so far you could grow in an English market in Quebec. You know, there's a ceiling that you hit, and no matter what you do, you stand on your head and spit nickels, whatever. The top stations always trade places, and there's only so far that you can get. In other words, you're limited by the fact that it's a majority Francophone marketplace, and I'm an English broadcaster. So that's a business thing. And the other thing was, to be perfectly frank, I didn't get along with one person who was running the place.
With a last name like Larange, I probably could have stayed forever, given that I could have honed the language. And I didn't. So I ended up a unilingual Anglophone with a French name in a town where I had worked in English, and if anything had ever happened to Shom, I wouldn't have been able to work anywhere else. I didn't have enough to even do retail anymore. Remember that kid with the Sgt. Pepper's t-shirt? I didn't recognize you, and nor did I recognize myself here. I didn't see me at all there.
So he's still listening, that kid, obviously.
Yeah, he's back from Disneyland, and I said we'd play his songs one day this week. Why do I eat Tim Hortons? They give me headaches every time. We settled on Calgary for just reasons that were in the news. It was big, the streets were paved with gold, things were going well, and we came out without jobs. We had a key to a car, and our furniture was in storage. And I vowed I'd never work in radio again. I was going to be a rodeo clown before I ever worked in radio again. I was in radio within a couple of weeks.
Coming out here and leaving all family, all friends, and knowing nobody, coming out here was a real jump and a leap of faith.
When you move, it's a roller coaster ride. You know, there are days where you're enjoying the adventure, and then there are other days where you think, Jesus Christ, what have I done? What have I done?
Most of us stayed, but there's about 10 to 15% who couldn't adjust to Calgary, either themselves or their wives or their families.
So I tried to focus on the things that I had as opposed to what I'd left behind.
You got to make with what you have.
I started in January on the air. 8 days later, I got strep throat. And I was off for 12 days. And I was in a little apartment. I didn't have my stuff. My stuff was all in my home in Westmount. So I was sick. I was trapped. I was alone. And I went to this clinic because I couldn't find a doctor. And I was sitting in this clinic for about 4.5 hours. Now, right or wrong, in Montreal, because of what I did, I had, and how long I'd been there, I had a doctor I could pick up the phone and go, hey doc, strep throat. She'd call the pharmacy. You know, I wouldn't even have to leave my house. So I'm at this clinic, and in the 4th hour, I'm sitting there thinking, what have I done? And the nurse comes out with the clipboard, and she yells, Di Monte, Di Monte. And I thought to myself, wow, that whole people knowing you party is over. That is over, so over. And I was never about celebrity. I understand that if you do anything in the public eye, you know, being known is kind of a byproduct of that. I never did it for that reason. But that was a real kind of, hey kid, you ain't in Montreal anymore. All the way to the bottom.
And my husband arrived here a bartender and is now a big cheese oil man who, you know, can be bonused at times more than he ever made in a year back east. The town's been really good to us. We have mountain views. We have a house that's more than doubled. Yeah, more than doubled in value. We have great kids, a minivan, all the things I never said I would ever do, I've done in Calgary. So there must have been a reason for my coming here. And now I'm back with my old pal, so I'm not going anywhere.
I'm Terrry Di Monte along with Peppermint Patty. Your costume's done for Jackson? And,
No, I still have to finish James. Mm-hmm. Oh, if anybody knows me, they know that the thought of making a costume is just enough to make me.
Why didn't you just buy one?
Do you remember when I made the train-shaped pancakes and he said, I don't like this?
Yes, I do.
If there's any of that tomorrow with this,
yeah,
it's going straight to school in some foreign land somewhere.
I'm talking to Montrealers when I talk about that passion, and it's in your blood. It's in your blood, and it doesn't matter where you go, it never goes away. And even if you're going to do something for business reasons, which is what I did basically, and I gave up a lot, you know going in, you're going to have to fight that. And you have to embrace, you have to hang your hat where you live. You have to embrace your new town, which is what I'm trying to do. Learn how to say essence, for God's sake.
There's relief.
Little Montreal.
Everybody went out.